Because inside our mind is a battlefield, and then the sentences come into our mind. Is it worth being in church? Is it really worth it? Then, as the days went by, the brothers abandoned me. I wanted everyone around me, and I began to become that sick believer. And one day, I told God, I don't preach anymore. And then when I threw the Bible, the Holy Spirit left my life, and I felt it leave. And I was left with such an empty person that I no longer had meaning in my life. I even did it. I prayed, but he didn't come back. And then I had no more strength. I tried to go to church. I went in for a little while and left crying. And I said, I will never go to church again. It had been 9 months since the accident occurred. And then I had the second accident. In the first accident, the truck tipped over and overturned on top of my car. I spent an hour and a half under the truck, crushed, swallowing sand. The truck was loaded with sand, but it just cracked a strand of rib on me. They burned my back, cutting the hardware to be able to remove me from that remains of the car. Then they managed to take me out, and I asked to take my wife and the other sister who was there. And they said there was no way, and the two who were with me ended up passing away right there. But on May 10th, 2002, I was already a failure, without supper. It had been 9 months and 3 days exactly since the first accident. When I arrived at work, it was building there in front of the Palacio Cent Bingo Hall, being built, 1,200 meters. There were 52 employees, and I arrived at work. God still used Brother Rubens, who was an employee there. He arrived and spoke like this. Pastor Valmer, why don't you go back to Jesus? Come back while there's time. He hugged me and cried with me. So I asked him, where are you going to preach today? But I just asked him to stop talking. I didn't want him to talk about church anymore. I was indignant, revolted, and he said so. Turn back now, because your life and your opportunities are ending. So I asked again where he was going to preach, and then he said the location, and I said, okay, then I'll go there. But I just told him to stop talking. So I was there in that building. I climbed onto the roof to help cover it up. I was walking on those tiles without feeling safe, without safety equipment. Then there was a moment when there was a very strong wind. I ended up slipping, stepping on the tile and ending up breaking the tile, and I fell 8 meters high. At the moment, the first thing I did was guitar for God, and then I said, my God, I will not let myself die, because I am led astray. There I was aware of how high I was, and when I fell to the ground, I took my hands to break the impact of the fall. Then it broke both my arms. The left one was shorter, about 15 centimeters. My right arm also broke. My knee also broke, and I hit my head, and caused head trauma. When I fell to the ground, I tried to reconcile with God, but I had no more strength. And then my body began to freeze, and I saw death. Death coming in the form of a slug. She came towards me, and I started screaming. No, I can't die. Don't do this to me. But there was no way. It was swallowing me, and I was freezing, as if I had entered a freezer. When she finished swallowing me, I left my body. I came out of my body so naturally. It was like taking my foot out of my shoe. And I want you to know that life after death is real. It's a natural thing. I was detaching from my body. I was leaving. And I was rising like a balloon, escaping from a child's hand. I was rising like a balloon, and I saw my body down there. I also saw Brother Rubens down there, holding my head and my body. He was surrounded by people, and they shouted, help, he's dying. And I said, please help me get back to my body. And they didn't listen to me. And suddenly I heard 2 laughs next to me, and when I looked to the side, there were 2 demons, looking at me, and they spoke. You died astray, and I thought, no, I will reconcile. But when I thought, it was too late, because I had already left my body, I said it's no use anymore. And then, I said, you won't touch me. But they came. They didn't have fingers. They were like nails, claws instead of fingers. That dog's head looked like a person, a man, and then they came, dug their nails into me, and grabbed me from behind, dug their nails into my chest, and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I was in so much pain. I screamed, no, don't do this to me. And they kept laughing and saying, you died astray. Now there is no way. So they took me and threw me into a well. It was like a tunnel, very big. and they threw me like throwing a bag in the trash. And I was falling. And all I thought at that moment was that it was all just a nightmare. I asked God to wake me up. I spoke. God wakes me up, because I still go to church today. But when I opened my eyes, and looked at myself falling and the light disappearing from the mouth of that tunnel, and I fell and entered the darkness, and I screamed for my children, saying, "Let go."